Hi folks, Lisa here, filming this on the Oregon coast. In the background you can probably hear the white noise that is the crashing of the waves, that incredibly, for me at least, just incredibly enriching and fulfilling sound of movement, of life, of the sort of continual streams of rising and falling, ebbing and flowing that the ocean with its waves reminds us is at the basis of all life, that everything is continually emerging, falling away, coming into intensity, falling off of intensity. The ocean waves are this deep reminder of how all things that exist, precisely because they're finite, come into existence and fade away from existence. And that sound, for me, so beautifully perfect for a video to talk about mindfulness and what mindfulness is. So I think, the word has so much buzz in modern life. It's used to describe everything from, breakfast cereal to the military. There's actually a military training that's based in mindfulness, trying to create more resilience for soldiers. And it's a word that is overused, and yet because the word mindfulness, mindful, is so much out there nowadays, it's wonderful. It's a wonderful opportunity to plant the seed for a deeper and more fulfilling life. So what is mindfulness? Sometimes I think, people equate mindfulness with just living in the present, as if the ways in which our thoughts become filled with ideas about the past or plans for the future, or with worry or with fear or with regret or remorse or delight about something that's about to happen, or a recollection about what has happened, as if that kind of fullness in our thoughts, in our hearts, is somehow wrong. Like, you should just be in the present, so hence there's a problem if your mind or your heart is elsewhere. Well, I say balderdash. Mindfulness is definitely about present moment awareness, but our present moments are full of thoughts and feelings about what has been or what might be. So we can't just cut that stuff away. That's part of who we are. In Buddhist terminology, we talk about karma, about the ways in which the accumulation of choices and decisions and happenstance have made me, in this body, heart, and mind, be exactly who I am today. So mindfulness might be about present moment awareness, but that isn't quite the same thing as just being in the present, at least not if we imagine that being in the present means getting rid of the past. The past is here. It's in my bones, it's in my DNA, it's in my emotional makeup, it's in my memory, it's in my hippocampus. It's coded into my brain. So if mindfulness isn't about being in the present in some simplistic way, what is it about? Well, the founder of mindfulness-based stress reduction, which is a 8-week curriculum designed to help promote a perception of less stress and more well-being. The founder of that, Jon Kabat-Zinn, defines mindfulness as the state of awareness that arises when we pay attention on purpose in an open and non-judgmental way in the present moment. There are 4 parts of that definition. So first of all, mindfulness is about paying attention. Okay? So it's about the ability to direct my attention, right, at will, on purpose. Now, if I say to you right now, like, pay attention to the tip of my nose, okay, you can just start to pay attention to the tip of my nose, and I hope that now it's itching. Now I'm paying attention to it. So you can direct your awareness, right, to the tip of my nose, just because I've said pay attention to the tip of my nose. Mindfulness is about paying attention on purpose. Now, we pay attention all the time, but typically we don't do it purposefully. Typically what happens is that life grabs us by the collar, it grabs us by the lapels and shakes us. So, typically we're shaken by life for two reasons, either because something is really pleasurable or because it's really unpleasurable. We pay attention to things that, in an evolutionary perspective, right? We pay attention to things that confer life, things that are good for us, things that we perceive to be good for us. So if you think about our caveman forebears, sort of running through the fields or the savannas or the forests or wherever, it's like, oh, that berry over there, we ate it during last winter and it kept us alive. Pay attention to that. Notice that. So we pay attention to good stuff, right? And it makes sense that we do so, because if we didn't pay attention to good stuff, we wouldn't survive. We also pay attention to bad stuff, like, oh, there's that saber-toothed cat that's chasing us down through the savannas or the forests or wherever saber-toothed tigers inhabited. It's like we pay attention to things that threaten life, and it's a good thing that we do so and that we did so, because otherwise we wouldn't survive. So we pay attention to things that further life, and we pay attention to things that threaten life. Life makes us pay attention, grabs us by the lapel to things that keep us alive and things that threaten our life. Now, as we all know, living in today's complex world, there's a lot of stuff that we think is either, like the berries that are going to keep us alive during winter, or like the saber-toothed tiger that is going to kill us. Like a lot of things, including our cell phone going off in the middle of a meeting. Oh my God, I've got to answer, right? We typically have our attention stimulated by a lot of stuff that's, not really threatening and maybe not that life conferring, but just stuff that nabs our attention. Stuff they're like, oh, that's important, right? The world is full of those kinds of distractions. And of course we are distracted by that stuff. We are hardwired to notice things that we perceive to be pro-life or anti-life. Psychologists talk about this as bottom-up processing, the way that we're primed, the way that we're structured to have our attention grabbed by things that we think of as either threat or as advantage. So when we pay attention to things that we imagine are either threat or advantage, that's not about paying attention on purpose. That's about our attention being grabbed. That's about a snap judgment, like this is good or this is bad. Now, in addition to that bottom-up processing, psychologists also talk about top-down processing, the way that we can use this brainiac part of our brain, the prefrontal cortex, the thing that makes us Homo sapiens sapiens. We can use this to make judgments about things and to say, I'm going to pay attention. So right now, you're paying attention to me because at some point you saw on your YouTube feed, you saw that there was this video and you're like, oh, that's important. You judged that you should pay attention to this. And if you stop listening, well, if you stop listening, you're not hearing this, but if you decide to stop listening, you decide not to pay attention again, that decision, executive function, prefrontal cortex, the brainiac, Homo sapiens sapiens part of our brain, that's about a decision to pay attention to something on the basis of judgment. This is good, this is bad. I'm driving down the road late at night, I hear the siren wailing of a police car or an ambulance. I pay attention to that because I think, oh, that's bad, something bad is happening, right? So either through the bottom-up ways in which life grabs us by the lapel, this confers life advantage, this negates life advantage, this is threatening, or this top-down processing where we judge that something is good or bad and we better pay attention to it accordingly. These are ways in which we pay attention, but we do so sort of by being grabbed by the lapels by life, and we do so with judgment. Jon Kabat-Zinn says mindfulness is about paying attention on purpose without judgment, in an open and non-judgmental way. Now, what would it mean to pay attention to something on purpose in an open and non-judgmental way? Well, it turns out that quality of paying attention to something without judgment is exactly what it means to be in the present. Not in a present that's devoid of past or future, because the past and the future inhabit my heart and my mind through my thoughts and my emotions, but to be in the present because I'm open to the streams of experience that arise right here, right now. I'm paying attention to these things, and I'm open to them without judgment. And I'm open to them on purpose. I'm paying attention, not because they're good or bad, but just because this is the present. This is where I am. So mindfulness, the state of awareness that arises when I bring my attention to this present stream of experience right now, that includes bodily sensations, that includes emotions rising up in my heart, that include thoughts, even judgments emerging in my brain. I pay attention to those things that emerge for me, body, heart, and mind, in this present moment. And I pay attention simply because this is where I find myself. I have a friend who's a mindfulness educator in the Bay Area, and she talks about contemplation, about mindful awareness, in terms of this quote from this Jesuit theologian who says, he describes contemplation, mindful awareness, as a long, loving look at the real. A long, loving look at the real. Walter Burkhardt. Beautiful, beautiful statement. Mindfulness is about this sustained attentiveness to whatever is here right now, to the real, to this life as it actually is, right here and now. And when I turn my awareness toward this life as it's emerging in this body, heart, and mind, in this present moment, right here and right now, as I do that, it's almost impossible not to do that with a spirit of kindness. Not to do that with a spirit of love. Why do I say that? Well, it turns out to be pretty difficult to pay attention to things in a sustained way, just as they are, when there's resistance, hatred, aversion, negativity, judgment in my heart. It turns out that if I really want to pay attention to the world just as it is, actually what I'm cultivating, it's mindfulness. But the other word for it is love. So mindfulness, a long, loving look at the real, an open and non-judgmental attentiveness to this life as it arises in this body, heart, and mind, right here and right now. Mindfulness, it turns out, is something that we can cultivate, something that we can practice. And over the weeks ahead, I will be recording different kinds of mindfulness practices to help us cultivate this quality, to cultivate this kindness toward our own lives as they unfold right here and right now. Unfold and unfurl, rolling together the ups and downs of life like the waves of the ocean. Okay. Thank you all for listening. I'll talk to you again soon.